Thanks for tuning in. This is Mike from Mana Hoarders. In this video, we'll be discussing a deck tech for a Jeskai commander, Elsha of the Infinite. You can cast Elsha for 2, a blue, a red, and a white. She is a 3/3 legendary Jin monk with prowess. She will allow us to look at the top card of our library at any time. We can also cast the top card as a non-creature, non-land card, and we can also cast it as though it had flash. The final price for this build came in at $62.61. This does include the price of our commander and all of our lands. Now do bear in mind that this price can vary greatly depending on the quality of the cards you purchase, the vendor you use, and a variety of other factors. In terms of power level, I would rate this deck at around a 5 or 6 out of 10 on the power scale. I would call this deck Elsha's Equipments. We're going to be running plenty of equipment that we can equip to our commander or other creatures. Now we're also going to be running plenty of creatures that like to be equipped, want to have as much equipment on them as possible, or will benefit the board if we have enough equipment and other artifacts on the field. First up are our legends. These are going to be the other legendary creatures we will be running in conjunction with our commander. A new one from Zendikar Rising, we have Akiri Fearless Voyager. This 3/3 core warrior will allow us to draw cards whenever we attack players with 1 or more equipped creatures. We can also pay a white to unattach an equipment from a creature we control, and if we do, we will tap that creature and it will gain indestructible until end of turn. And one dear to my heart, we have Dalekos, Crafter of Wonders. He can tap to add 2 colorless mana to our mana pool, which we can only spend to cast artifacts or activate abilities of artifacts we control, such as the equipment cost of cards. And equipped creatures we control will have flying and haste. For 2 and a white, we can cast Danitha. She has First Strike, Vigilance, and Lifelink. And aura and equipment spells we cast will cost 1 less to cast. And a very notable and very powerful commander in her own right, Jhoira, Weatherlight Captain. Whenever we cast a historic spell, we will draw a card, so every single equipment we cast with Jhoira on the board will replace itself in our hand. For 3, a red and a white, we can cast Jor Kadeen the Prevailer. He was actually my big inspiration to build an equipment style deck, so I had to include him here. I love it for the Metalcraft ability, meaning creatures we control get +3 +0, as long as we control 3 or more artifacts. I felt it fit too perfectly an equipment style deck that will pump up some of our creatures that will already be getting tons of additional power and toughness from having equipment on them. We also have Kemba for 1 and 2 white. She is a 2/4 cat cleric. At the beginning of our upkeep, we can put a 2/2 white cat creature token onto the battlefield for each equipment attached to Kemba. We also have Sram, Senior Edificer. This 2/2 Dwarf Advisor will allow us to draw a card every time we cast an aura, equipment, or vehicle. And another personal favorite of mine, Valduk, Keeper of the Flame. At the beginning of combat on our turn, for each aura and equipment attached to Valduk, we will create a 3/1 red elemental creature token with trample and haste. Then we will exile those at the beginning of the next end step. And for our non-legendary creatures, we have Auriok Glaivemaster. Will get +1/+1 in first strike as long as it's equipped. Auriok Salvagers, we can pay 1 and a white to return an artifact with converted mana cost 1 or less from our graveyard to our hand. And Auriok Steelshaper, we can pay 1 less to equip our equipment. And as long as it is equipped, other soldiers and knights we control will get +1/+1. We have Champion of the Flame and Goblin Gaveleer. They are both 1/1s with trample. Champion of the Flame will get +2/+2 for each aura and equipment attached to it, and the Gaveleer will get +2/+0 for each equipment attached to it. For 2 mana of any color, we can cast Hovermere, and for 4, we can cast Jhoira's Familiar. The Hovermere is a 1/2 with Flying and Vigilance. I mostly put it in here because it synergizes well with some of our other legends, and this is a good creature that we can have in the air to just throw some equipment on and deal some easy damage. Also with Jhoira's Familiar, historic spells we cast will cost 1 less, meaning this Hovermere will come down on the field for 1, and our equipment will be even cheaper to get out onto the board. Kazuul's Toll Collector, Kor Duelist, and Loxodon Punisher. For 0, we can attach target equipment we control to the Toll Collector. We can only activate this ability when we can cast a sorcery. Kor Duelist will have a double strike as long as it's equipped, and Loxodon Punisher will get +2/+2 for each equipment attached to it. For 1 and a white, Auriok Sunchaser will get +2/+2 and have flying as long as we control 3 or more artifacts. And Auriok Windwalker, it has flying, and we can tap it to attach target equipment we control to target creature we control. Myr Adapter will get +1/+1 for each equipment attached to it. Puresteel Paladin will allow us to draw a card whenever we cast an equipment, and as long as we have 3 or more artifacts, we can equip our equipment for 0. And Stonehaven Outfitter, equipped creatures we control will get +1/+1, and whenever an equipped creature we control dies, we will draw a card. We also have Renowned Weaponsmith and Sun Titan. Much like Dalekos, Renowned Weaponsmith can tap to add 2 colorless mana. We can only use that mana for artifact spells or to activate abilities of artifacts. And Sun Titan, whenever it enters battlefield or attacks, we can return a permanent with converted mana cost 3 or less from our graveyard to our battlefield. so we can return some of our smaller creatures or our equipments whenever he enters the battlefield or attacks our opponents. And another personal favorite card of mine, Heavenly Blademaster. For 5 and a white, we get this 3/6 angel with flying and double strike. Whenever Heavenly Blademaster enters the battlefield, we can attach any number of auras or equipment we control to it, and then other creatures we control will get +1/+1 for each aura and equipment attached to Heavenly Blademaster. Next up are our artifacts. These first 3 are our mana rocks. We have Azorius Signet, Boros Signet, and Izzet Signet. They are going to help us ramp and help us with a little bit of mana fixing as well. And our equipment. We have Banshee's Blade. It'll get +1/+1 for each charge counter on it. Whenever a creature deals combat damage to a player, it'll get a charge counter. We have a Basilisk Collar. The equipped creature will get Death Touch and Lifelink. Bonesplitter. The equipped creature will get +2/+0. Empyrial Plate will give our equipped creature +1/+1 for each card in our hand. Explorer's Scope will allow us to reveal the top card of our library whenever the equipped creature attacks, and if it's a land, we can put it onto the battlefield tapped. Fireshrieker will give our equipped creature double strike. Leering Emblem, whenever we cast a spell, the equipped creature will get +2/+2 until end of turn. Loxodon Warhammer will give our equipped creature +3/+0, trample, and lifelink. Sai of the Shinobi will give the equipped creature +1/+1, and whenever a creature enters the battlefield under our control, we can attach the Sai to it. Slagwurm Armor will give our equipped creature +0/+6. Trailblazer's Boots will give our creature non-basic land walk. In a game of Commander, normally in decks that have 2 or 3 or even more colors, we'll have some non-basic lands in those players' decks, meaning this creature will be largely unblockable. We have Trusty Machete, which will give our equipped creature +2/+1. And a Viridian Claw, equipped creature will get +1/+0 and have a first strike. Next up for our enchantments, our Empyrial Armor will give enchanted creature +X/+X, where X is the number of cards in our hand. Jeskai Ascendancy will essentially give our creatures prowess. They will get +1/+1 whenever we cast a non-creature spell, and then we will untap those creatures. Also, whenever we cast a non-creature spell, we can draw a card and discard a card, so a lot going on with this one here. Nahiri's Machinations, at the beginning of combat on our turn, target creature we control will gain Indestructible. We can also pay 1 in a red, and Nahiri's Machinations will deal 1 damage to target blocking creature. And Whirlwind of Thought. For 4, whenever we cast a non-creature spell, we will draw a card. We are including 1 Planeswalker, Saheeli Sublime Artificer. Whenever we cast a non-creature spell, we're going to get a 1/1 colorless Servo Artifact creature token. We can also pay -2. Target artifact we control becomes a copy of another target artifact or creature we control until end of turn, except it's an artifact in addition to its other types. With Elsha's ability, we can look at the top card of our library at any time and cast them if they are non-creature spells. So we have our sorceries. Amass the components, we can draw 3 and then put a card from our hand on the bottom of our library. Board the Weatherlight, we'll look at the top 5, reveal a historic card from among them, put it into our hand, and put the rest on the bottom in a random order. Lava Coil will deal 4 damage to target creature, and then if that creature dies, it goes to exile instead. River's Rebuke, we can return all non-land permanents target player controls to their owner's hand. And we have Sleep, we will tap all creatures target player controls, and those creatures will not untap during that player's next untap step. Aether Shockwave, a sort of sleep at instant speed. We can choose one to tap all spirits or tap all non-spirit creatures. Aetherize, we can return all attacking creatures to their owner's hand. Deflecting Palm, if a source would deal damage to us, we can deflect that and deal damage to that source's controller instead. Essence Scatter can counter a target creature spell. Mandate of Peace, we can only cast it during combat. It makes it so our opponents can't cast spells this turn, and it will end the combat phase. Override, it will counter target spell unless its controller pays 1 for each artifact we control. At instant speed, we can cast Polymorphous Jest. Until end of turn, each creature target player controls loses all abilities and becomes a blue frog with base power and toughness 1/1. We have Retaliate, which will destroy all creatures that dealt damage to us this turn. And Rewind, we can counter target spell and untap up to 4 lands. Stoic Rebuttal will counter target spell and it will cost 1 less if we have 3 or more artifacts. And Wear and Tear. Wear can destroy target artifact, and Tear can destroy target enchantment. And last but not least, we have our lands. We have Reliquary Tower. This is going to be our 1 non-basic land in this deck. As some of you might realize, adding a lot of non-basic lands really drives up the price, especially if those lands come in untapped. So Reliquary Tower will give us an unlimited hand size, meaning if we're drawing a bunch of cards, we never have to worry about discarding them. And as far as our basics, we are running 11 mountains, 11 islands, and 12 plains. And just like that, we have reached the end of this Commander deck tech. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, tell your friends about us, and leave a comment down below. Let us know who you'd like to see us build around in the future. We really appreciate the support.